Did you know that fear is a tool that is used for political control of the population? It is cultivated in different ways, but the most prominent one is through manipulation, and this is achieved through misinformation and fabricated crisis. In some settings different from ours, they will create, for example, a threat. They will create a narrative of immigration as a threat and use it as a political tool to manipulate and gain public support, even when there is no crisis. They will manufacture a crisis of external threat, even when it does not exist. And that is not to say that external threats do not exist, but even when they do not exist, they will create a crisis and use it to public sentiment to distract the population from the real issues that affect them. Any dissenting voices will be labeled as agents of imperialists because they are trying to count on the sentiments of nationalism of the population. In settings like ours, case of Uganda, the manipulation is largely built around issues like external threat because the one who is trying to manipulate and control public feeling is aware of the sentiments of nationalism. They will manufacture a crisis of external threat and label any dissenting voices or anybody asking for accountability as an agent of imperialists or an agent of external forces. They also know the social feelings of Ugandans on some subject. Whoever raises any questions of accountability or the dissenting voice, they will try to tag what they consider as threats to the social feelings of the population. Now that is manipulation through misinformation and propaganda. The other aspect of fear is the one of using repressive force to the population under fear. And that's why not once, not twice, but frequently, you will see the security forces, the behest of the incumbents and the regime, beating people, aiming them, arresting them without any cause, taking them through a facade of a trial. That's why you'll find the opposition leaders like Dr. Besigye in jail. That's why you'll find the presidential candidate, President Chagwan, being beaten, being harassed, maimed, standing up to the regime. The intention, first of all, is to send a message of fear to the population that if your leader can be treated this way, people youth can get worse. Remember, through manipulation and propaganda, they have already tried to convince some sections of the population. They are trying to preserve peace, are trying to preserve order, the sovereignty of the country. But remember that most cases, like in this particular case, that crisis manufactured is intended to manipulate, mislead the population, and justification the unnecessary violence, but which is necessary for regime survival because they use it to keep the population under fear and control. Important for people, for example, here who are going to an election, understand only way you can disempower that are relying on fear in your control, first of all, is the awareness. This is a deliberate, is aimed disempowering you, at manipulating you, at causing fear, to give them political advantage. Once you are aware, you'll be able to analyze whatever comes from them. The misinformation once you question their misinformation, you are able to find information and debunk the lies. Then you will have managed to disempower their tool in that regard. Also, most importantly, focus on what you look at the fear that you have, the V that you are fighting for, conviction, the end state of what you are fighting to gain. What you are fighting to gain, your freedom, your liberty, to be a stakeholder in a country that you call motherland, inclusion in the economic equation of the country, is greater than the threat that you face out of this fear that is being created by the regime. You should be able to focus on that very critical end state that you are looking at, where they will be forced to go back to the drawing board and ask themselves, now that fear is not working, what else can we deploy? That means that you'll be a step ahead of those that are seeking to control you. But the moment you do not realize that they are feeding you on misinformation, that they are feeding you on propaganda, the virus they are using is part of their strategy to keep you under fear and control, then you will forever be a slave of the strategy of fear that they have deployed.